right, it's 7 p.m. on Thursday, November 19th, 2019, and we are going to open the Committee of Committees meeting. We do roll call, please.
Committee members Dina Simpson. Here. William Loxinger.
Here.
Jen Christensen. Here. John Talbot.
Here.
Chris Sample.
Here.
Jared Doan.
Here.
Village President Rick Worm.
Here.
Treasurer Brenda Onavini is absent. I am here. Jess Pearson, Deputy Clerk. Village Clerk Sandy Moss. Public Works Supervisor Brett Fergie.
Here.
Park Supervisor Nathan Hill.
Here.
And our Village Engineer Matt Hanson.
Here.
All right, so before we get started into public comment, I did want to welcome Nathan Hill, as I smashed the microphone. Welcome Nathan Hill to the village. He started yesterday for his first day as the Public Works Supervisor. What's that? I'm sorry, Parks Supervisor. Sorry, Brett.
You just found out. Later.
You need a mic.
So just to clarify, Nathan Hill is the Parks Supervisor, replacing an employee we lost a little while ago. So we'll go on to public comment if you want to speak. Please, go microphone. You don't have to tell us who you are or where you're from. Just please use the microphone.
Hi there.
Oh.
So I recognize actually some of you. You're on our Facebook page. We are actually from Winnebago County, but we've made a couple of friends throughout because we have a citizens group that's kind of starting to get really skunked by the two landfills together. So we're not anti-landfill, and we want to make that clear. We are anti-landfill operating out of compliance. We're having a lot of problems in our area, and as Dave and I just drove down 251, I couldn't even breathe. So you guys may or may not be experiencing the same thing we are. But we are getting a lot of your residents joining our page. Like I said, I think I recognize you from the page. As far as we are really trying to get these guys back into compliance. The EPA is working with us. I was going to introduce Dave and let him tell you a little bit more about who and what we're trying to do and where we've gotten so far.
Yeah, I'm Dave. DeBlau is my last name. And I live in New Milford, a Rockford address, but I live in New Milford, the south side of the Kishwaukee, about 1.25 miles straight north of Winnebago landfill. 4 times a week I drive down here to Davis Junction, and I joined that little fitness center just west of here. And I come down here, and it's beyond putrid every time. A few of us got fed up with this way back in March, and I made it my sole purpose to find an attorney who would help us with these landfills. I spent all spring and summer bouncing between one and the other. Finally, I got one that come across in August. Called him, he called me back. What a novel idea to have an attorney call you back, but he did. And he's very interested in going after these landfills, making them come into compliance. Like Ginger says, we're not trying to close them down. We don't want to. We realize garbage has to go someplace. I lived in the area that I live in for 29 years. Both of those landfills were there when I moved there. I did ask the realtor at the time, you know, what about Pagel Pit? Everybody knows it as Pagel Pit. Well, when it's full, it's supposed to close. 6 or 7 years, supposed to close. Well, it never did. Somebody realized there's money in trash and garbage, and let's all dump it in Winnebago County. So then they started their expansions and stuff. We lived there for 20-some years, probably close to 25 years, 24 years. You could drive by them most any time. Other than seeing that they were there, you didn't know they were there. They were in compliance, you know, generally speaking, they were. Winnebago was sued a few years ago, a nuisance for odors, a nuisance, a light slap on the wrist. Nothing was done to curb their non-compliance. They've been non-compliant ever since. And so this attorney, we the small court group met with him back in August, early September. And then I arranged, a couple of meetings where the citizens of the area could come and meet with him, sign his retainers, his information forms and stuff like that, and get involved. I had excellent turnout at both of those meetings. We've been handing these forms out to people all over ever since. And like I said, we're not trying to close them. We know how important the landfill is to this community. But I hope your citizens are more important to you than this landfill. And some of the village boards that we come across, we don't find that to be the case. The money talks much louder than anything else. And so, I guess what I'm here and Ginger's here is to just let you know that there is a group out there that we're gonna do whatever we can and however long it takes to bring these landfills into compliance. And typically, the only way you do that is to hurt their bottom line, because they continually ignore you until you do. So, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. We don't know that it's gonna take that, but that's the process that's going on right now. And, I guess we'd like to come before this board here, we'd like to know that, you know, we could have your cooperation, understanding as to why we're doing this, because we live with this odor nearly every day. It comes into our house, wakes us up at night. Over the summer we had to leave our houses closed up. I run the air conditioner literally all summer, and that's not me. I like to open windows and stuff. Couldn't do it this year. It got really bad about a year ago last September, and I would say that ever since then, it's been at or near that level of being bad. All you gotta do is go up 251, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Did anybody take that route tonight?
We can smell it from here.
Yeah,
By the time we got here, we were like,
well,
If it's humid and, or very
Damp.
hot out, right, or damp, it pushes the odor down, and we can smell it.
well, on Friday, I came down here to the little fitness center, and I was smelling it all the way down. I pulled up in front of this place so I could find it this evening, and I continued on to Stillman Valley, and it was over there yet. So it isn't, you know, it isn't just New Milford, it isn't just South Rockford, it's all the little surrounding communities in any direction that are affected by it. I'd hate to think how many households are affected by it. It's up in the thousands. Somebody's got to do something, and that's what we're doing.
what are your thoughts on it as far as a village?
I just had a question. How do we know they're out of compliance? Just because it smells doesn't necessarily mean it's out of compliance. I mean, how do you know personally, or where you
I know
keep
of
repeating that? I'm just
17
curious.
EPA violations that I could send to you
No,
tomorrow.
I'm just...
Is that from the Winnebago landfill?
Yeah, we're only familiar with Winnebago. We just now we created a Winnebago Facebook page,
Right.
and we just got bombarded with people from Stillman, Davis Junction, Byron, and they're all saying that it's Ogle County that's been offensive to them. People in New Milford and the town, to include the fire chief, says that they get hit with Orchard Hills more than they get hit with Winnebago. They do that by mapping the wind. So it's, you know, there's probably,
I think there's an app out there that does it too.
Smell My City.
Maps
Yeah.
to win?
Yeah.
Maps though.
How do you differentiate? They're right across the street from each other. I don't know how
I
that
have
would be
2
possible.
properties, so I'm exactly north
I know, but
of
if the
one.
wind's blowing across 2 properties, both are landfills, across the street, literally across the street from each other, how would you determine
So,
which
I don't
which
have a
smell the
DNA
landfill
detector in
come
my,
from?
in my nose. I can tell you from like my 2 properties, so if I look at the wind and it's blowing from the south, and my house is getting it, it's Winnebago. I can tell you that if the wind is coming from the southwest, my house isn't getting it, but my farm is, that's gonna be Ogle County. So I can tell you from the wind most likely, but we don't go by, we let the EPA test them. and
But
they can
again,
all test.
they're right next to each other.
Fair
That
enough,
shouldn't
but-
matter which way the wind's blowing. If
And
if I put them on top of each other, you know, you're gonna, I imagine you're getting it from both, which makes it worse, right? Especially with the expansion of Winnebago's landfill?
I'm sure we are, but
Mhm.
if you were to drive up 251 right now, you know that...
Give them the mic.
Microphone.
That's coming...
I've been down 251 many times. I smelled both the landfills. I mean, I don't know which one it's coming from because I'm driving between them. But I smell it.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
So from our mapping, and it's exactly right, from our mapping, it's somewhat of a guess, but we can tell. We leave that up to the EPA when they come out and they use their monitors, which one has the off-site gassing, which one on that site has the problem, and they test.
And they have a report?
They do.
Because I'd like to get that report. I'd be happy to give you
I think you could
An email
contact the
address.
EPA. I don't know if you Freedom of Information
thought
Act,
you had
or
that
I have the
information.
one
I'm
for
sorry.
Winnebago. I don't have one for Ogle County.
oh, for the Winnebago landfill, not the Ogle County landfill.
Correct.
All right, gotcha.
Like I said, we just started in Winnebago. We were floored by how many people in Davis Junction, Stillman Valley, Byron, and these areas, Oregon, joined it. And our Facebook page even says, it names Winnebago. And we were surprised that now nearly half of the people and the members on that page are from this area. So that's why we're introducing this to you.
But wouldn't some odor just be a natural occurrence that would be not in violation of
No,
something?
if it leaves the facility, it is in violation of the EPA.
Even with the element of Mother Nature carrying
Even
it?
if it leaves the facility, it is in violation of the EPA.
It's a tough one.
They're supposed to spray that thing on top of the garbage to keep the scent from going, but they haven't done that for several years.
Between wells and cover, I think they're supposed to. And those aren't the only violations, the 14 odor violations. There's also violations for road damage, for garbage leaving the area, for litter. There you have multiple violations. Again, I don't have Ogle County's record. I'm told by the EPA they're equivalent, but Winnebago
surprise
is
me.
clearly offensive.
Any further questions?
I mean, I'm all for it, to get the smell going. It's disgusting, and it never used to smell like that years ago.
Excuse me, 3-4 times a week, and, every single time coming down, every single time going home, I smell it, and so I know it's down here, and, a couple weeks ago, I stepped out of the fitness center there, and my God, about knocked me over. So I know it's here, and I know I'm not the only one smelling it. And I know, I just wanted to see how far I could go the other day. I went to Stillman Valley, and it was still there, and we have Stillman Valley people on our Facebook page, so we know that, they're fed up with it too. And, like Ginger says, we get them from Winnebago and, no, I don't know, some towards Cherry Valley, but, it's growing, and as that thing moves east, they're gonna be right in line with the worst of it. They're gonna be worse off than we are.
They approved the expansion of the Winnebago one all the way to 39?
Well, I don't know if they have land all the way to 39. As they go into each parcel, they have to reapply to use that. Right now, their next expansion involves, doing something with a tributary to Killbuck Creek. If you know where Killbuck Creek is, there's a tributary that is in the next, expansion. And they have what they wanted to do was dry that up and reroute it someplace else so that they could, and they have to get that okayed before the Illinois EPA, before they can, expand into the next piece. Now back, I don't know, was it in the summer, we were told that if we was to write 10 letters to the Illinois EPA explaining our concerns about this, and all the other concerns that we've had, if they got 10 letters, they would have a special hearing. I never heard whether we're gonna get that special hearing or whether we got the 10 letters down there. And I don't know where the next expansion.
We did get enough for a public hearing, but they have not responded yet. They send it back to Waste Connections owners in Texas. They have responded, but the EPA said they're backlogged, and they have not gone forward with it yet. They will do a public hearing before they approve the rerouting of Killbuck Creek and drying up of that 1 acre of wetland. So you guys also have an expansion probably coming with Waste Management moving in. They have another 300 acres that they haven't asked for permitting for.
Yeah, they have a 20-year extension, but, Waste Management's got enough money to move the High Lines, 'cause they have to move the High Lines, it's $1 million per pole, they gotta reroute, but I could see it.
Of course. Yeah, $1 million isn't a day's work for
It's
them.
nothing for them. 'cause they're
Right,
Waste
so they have
Management.
300 more acres where you guys could
It's-
grow
it's-
again.
It's not Waste Management yet, that's still gotta be approved by all the higher-ups, it's still Advanced Disposal.
But Waste Management bought Advanced Disposal.
But it's still in the approval process to the state.
Oh, okay, but, okay.
They
So-
may or may not, we don't know yet.
Okay, but there's 300 acres that's been purchased by Advanced Disposal that they
Right.
have not permitted yet.
But
And
they
that
told
goes
us they
to
bought
you.
that for dirt. We'll see.
So if they ask for a permit for that, it comes through, are you,
It has to go
you're the
through us
siting
and the
authority?
county.
You and Ogle County are the
Mhm.
siting authority, so you take it to Ogle County and then they approve it? Is that?
We would actually do it together.
Okay, so it's not a 1-2
We
step?
work with the county, we don't let them pit us against each other.
Oh, okay, so it's not a 1-step through you and then you take it to the county, you guys are?
We do it together, that way we're always together.
Just for the dirt?
That's what they originally said, when they bought it for the dirt, for cover.
Yeah, right, 'cause they're hauling cover in there to cover it. So they're not using it, that dirt, they're getting cover in there. I talked to Reichmont, and that's what they're doing, they're hauling dirt in there to cover it.
You guys are around, is it 6,000 tons a day for collection?
I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Okay.
Do you know it, William?
I knew you were gonna ask me.
Well, you're the other one that's involved, so.
I'd have to pull up.
I don't know what the tonnage per
I'd
day
have to
is.
pull up an email, but I don't have it on top of my head.
Is it close to
I-
6,000?
I could not, I'd be speculating if I said anything, I wouldn't know.
Exactly,
Because we're nearly 17,000 tons a day with Winnebago County.
right.
That tips the largest
That's,
scale.
it's because your fee is so much lower than everybody else.
I understand that, and we didn't negotiate that, obviously. That was
I'm not sure who did.
Scott Christensen.
I would really question why that was negotiated that low.
We all argue that as well, and it was done, and that's not something we can go back now, I'm told. We have no stipulations on it either. We have nothing that's...
Well, we've heard all that.
Yeah, so right now, it's like, okay, but the health department, the EPA, the state, there are other agencies then, exactly what we're using, to just put pressure to get them back into compliance. They're a
Mhm.
$5 billion company. Last quarter, they got a 10% windfall they didn't expect out of landfill. They didn't even expect that profit,
That was from Waste Connections?
Waste Connection.
Okay.
What is it you're looking from us?
To let you know that your population is also affected. I understand that they're pretty good to you guys monetarily, and...
Oh, we get complaints from the residents as well.
Okay,
We
so,
do.
like I said, our Facebook page wasn't directed at this county nor
Right.
this area. We got inundated. So as we're going to our own county quite a bit, we finally turned some of our county members, and we're finally going to get different permits. We finally got them to talk to the Attorney General. We're gonna be there on Thursday when they go to court against Waste Connections. That's probably EPA is going after then next, I'm sure, than Ogle County's dump. And, you know, the cause and allow issues and everything else that would go with it is, where do the people stand? We do a lot of conversations with, okay, here's who we spoke to on this board and who's helping us, who works against us, and we're pretty honest about it.
Mhm.
As a board, if your neighborhoods are saying, we really don't want this next expansion, we really want your backing, we have, New Milford Village is not, they back the landfill. Cherry Valley Village backs the residents. If
That
you guys-
landfill's not in the village of New Milford, is it?
It is not. It is not.
County.
That's what I think.
It's county.
Is the Winnebago County Board supporting you guys?
They've just turned recently. It didn't at first. They used to tell us, you know, thank you very much, pat us on the back, give us a call the next day, tell us they like seeing us. They've finally started meeting us and pushing back against Pete Lyons, against a little bit of what's going on. Yeah, they're now talking to the Attorney General, where before, the Attorney General has been in Winnebago County for the last 2 years going to court. They've finally just added violations that the Winnebago County will back. The Health Department has finally come on board just this year, where before she kind of ignored it.
Anything further?
can tell you the tonnage here in a second.
Okay. Clicking away.
So this is calendar year, 365 days of the year. I can't break it out by business days,
You guys
but,
dump 6 days a week?
6,
yeah, half-day Saturday or something.
yeah.
We're
3,000
permitted like
tons.
4:30 to 7 and then 4:30 to 5.
So for the calendar year 2018, it was, a little over 3,000 tons a day,
For what calendar year?
2018.
2018.
But that's 365 days average, not business days. That was just quick math. So it's
that-
right around probably 5,000 or 6,000, if I.
Well, if you
Lower than
take 50, you'd take 52 days off that.
Yeah, lower.
Have you grown significantly, like Winnebago has in the last year?
Population-wise?
No, the garbage dumping per day.
No,
That's
it's
No.
steady.
grown.
It's actually probably gone down.
Mhm.
They're on their last cell, but we'll see if they expand it.
Currently, they have about 7 years left.
When you say you'll see if they expand it, if they apply for the permit or if,
When they apply for everything, they might expand it. It just depends.
It's a good bet they'll expand.
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
if I
I
was
mean, they
them.
got 300 acres, so why just let it sit there?
with the state that they're in now, would your board approve it?
I believe they would.
With, if they came back with as many violations as Winnebago County has?
I haven't seen the violations. If they brought them to us and we saw the violations, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the board would do if they saw them. I can't speak for the other 6 members of this board. Like I said, right now, they have, the biggest thing that affects us is the fact that they run most of the village expenses. And our village taxes are really low due to that. So every resident of this village has an extremely low tax rate due to the landfill. That will be the one thing that would affect the residents. So I don't know what their feelings on it are as residents. We would probably have meetings and ask them what they think. I mean, if, to any siting, we would have to have public hearings anyway. For any siting that comes up, we will have to have public hearings and we will get their input, I can guarantee you. We get input over the smell, we have residents call, so I'm sure if we go through a siting, they will definitely attend our
You have an
meetings.
EPA delegate down here, correct? Do they sit on your board, the EPA delegate for the landfill? No. So when they call you, do you call the EPA or do the reports go anywhere?
I don't know. Do you know if we get any reports from the EPA?
Well, I mean, if they call you to complain for the smell, do you guys do anything with the report?
So you're talking about our residents?
Yeah, when the
Oh.
residents call you to complain about the odors, do those odor complaints go anywhere?
What do we do with the complaints when they come in?
County.
Matt?
Oh, she's after a mic.
Typically, if we receive a complaint, we direct them back to the landfill to let them know about the issue. I would have no problem directing them to the EPA. If we had that contact information available, we don't, so therefore we don't.
Would you like it? I can give it to you.
I have no problem with them calling the EPA.
Yeah, I mean, we have encouraged people to contact the EPA regarding other issues. So again, I have no problem sharing that information as long as it comes from a valid source. So I will make sure I give you my business card and send me the link on the IEPA's website where the information needs to go, and I'm happy to share that with our residents when they call.
Sure.
However, I would
Mhm.
like
I think we
you
do.
to know that they don't call as often
Okay.
as I think the board thinks they do.
They're looking at the-
Maybe this year we've gotten 2 phone calls since January.
Okay.
Well, we all live here. I mean.
We do.
We can smell when it smells and when it doesn't, and
Mhm.
quite frankly, it's 2 or 3 times a year for me. And I live in the village. I have for 18, 20 years, whatever it is. I've smelled the landfill maybe half a dozen times.
How far are you from the landfill?
I don't know. I live in the village right across the,
2 or 3
miles?
times a year?
Yeah.
At the max.
My wife's nose is a little more sensitive than mine.
Maybe.
She can smell it more often than
You know,
I can.
I don't even think that many. I think maybe in the 20 years that I've been here, I've smelled the dump at my house a half dozen times.
I smelled it yesterday from my house.
Okay, you may very well have. I didn't, that's all I'm saying. You know, I don't think I
There's,
live that much
there's days my wife
farther
can smell it and I
down
can't,
for you.
so I think it's really gotta depend on how
Yeah,
sensitive somebody is to the
I
odor.
don't know. I've never had to close my windows because the landfill,
You've never had to close your
Nope.
windows?
No.
Never.
How far away do you live? You're all in
Just
the
right
village?
across
12
the
blocks
railroad
away.
tracks.
We all live in the, within, what, half
5
a mile?
minutes of
30?
here,
Yeah.
if that.
Yeah.
But
I
within
have
a
a
mile.
family member that goes to the strip mall that you were referencing 6 days a week, and for 15 years, I've never received one complaint that the smell is down there from her.
Well, it's there. Not all the time, but it's there.
You smell it often, you're gonna be able to recognize it off the point.
I drive by the
Just
landfill
like natural
7 days a
gas.
week
I've worked
almost.
around natural gas for years.
I usually smell it when I get right up next to it, but not,
Well, everybody has their own sensitivity.
Right.
If you smell it, you smell it. I just don't have the issue myself, at least not on a regular basis. You know, so it's to each their own or whatever else. Right.
Well, I guess we've probably taken enough of your time. I do have forms here for the attorney, if anybody cares to get involved with this. If you actually do smell it more often, if you want to get involved, I got forms right here.
you're more welcome, leave some back there.
Odor
Pick one
logs,
up.
odor logs. I've went into some of the businesses over here and they all complain about it. They all do. They all take these forms when I bring them in and I explain to them, you know, what they're for and what we're trying to accomplish. And so, yeah, I'll leave a few. But, anyway, we thank you for your time. We thank you for listening to us. We want you to know that we're around and we're gonna do whatever we can so that nobody ever smells it. Nobody ever smells it again.
Don't get me wrong, the odor has been atrocious for
Yeah.
about a year and a half.
Yeah,
But
that's what,
I've... No,
No.
when
He
I
said-
travel through there, when I
Yeah.
get closer
Mhm.
to it,
yeah,
it is atrocious. It is definitely,
yeah. 5 minutes from here, it's atrocious.
yeah, and it's, but 2 years,
Prior to
2 years
that.
and more, it hasn't, I don't recall it
No.
being like that. So you're right, there is
I-
an issue, and I don't disagree with that.
I worked for a refrigeration service company in Rockford for many years doing supermarkets and stuff. I'd travel all over this area. You could drive down 251 to Rochelle, all over the place, go down Baxter Road, all you wanted to and never smell it. You knew it was there. But the last few years, they've become, you know, they've expanded. They are adding just an atrocious amount of garbage to Winnebago every day. They've done not nearly enough to rectify the gases. They don't have enough gas containment. They don't, you know, the manager, we had a little ad hoc meeting last spring in New Melford, and the manager of the Winnebago landfill was there, and he was crowing how they were gonna spend $1 million digging new wells this last year for gas containment, and then whatever they gotta do to get it to one of them places where it burns off. That's the whole purpose of it.
Are they running cogen up there, cogeneration anymore?
I don't think so.
They're just doing all the flare stacks?
That's what I'm aware of, yeah, and sometimes they're out.
What did you say the tonnage was they're bringing in up there?
So,
With the number William gave you, if you break it down, I took 55 days off, and it come out to 3,500 tons a day.
yeah.
Okay, please.
So we've reached 17,000 tons a day in Winnebago on the average. A more steady, probably tonnage on a steady waste or garbage collection is about 14,000 tons a day.
Wow.
Do they have, do you know, do they have regulations of what they accept, or are they accepting everything?
They're accepting everything and there is no regulation.
Because I think we do know.
They're not a hazardous waste dump site.
Are they?
Are?
We're not.
Yeah.
Mm.
Sorry.
No, they collect everything. Hazardous waste, medical waste, construction debris. Right now, they're special projects for O'Hare. They're picking up all the old runway.
Because I think we have
They came to us to
regulations,
bid
don't
for
we?
that.
Yeah, we can't bring that stuff in.
Yeah, I
here.
was gonna say, we have stipulations with ours.
Even when the EPA tried to get us to let them to bring stuff in, we said no.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you. Thanks.
Settle yourself.
Okay, we'll move on to the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 15th, 2019 Committee of Committee minutes.
Oh, Ben, you go ahead and look at it.
Second.
John makes a motion to approve the October 15th, 2019 committee minutes. John seconds. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please. Or, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Abstain.
Passes at 7:32. You don't need a roll call on that. We'll go to the committees. Utilities?
So first, I want to clear the air, because I did something last week that typically is not what I normally do. So I need to publicly also clear the air. So a couple weeks ago, I got, to say it lightly, pissed at some comments that William had made. And rather than talking to him about it directly, I took it with me and allowed it to resonate personally as opposed to as a board situation. And so rather than doing what I would typically do and lead above the line, I went below the line last week rather than talking to him first about it. So I apologize for that immensely. I shouldn't have done that without discussing with you what was pissing me off in the meeting prior. So typically I don't do that, so I apologize.
That's all right. Dean and I spoke yesterday for a while, and what I was trying to convey to the board, as I went back and watched the video, as I told her, a lot of times I'm thinking of what I'm in my head, and sometimes it doesn't come out clearly in my mouth. And there was more that I wanted to say to be more specific about my position, and I didn't get it out, and I realized that in the video. So I cleared that with her, I hope,
Absolutely,
via the phone call.
absolutely. And I should have, right then and there, should have asked the question. I was dumbfounded, and I allowed it to affect me personally as opposed to recognizing that we were talking about a board decision, not just a Dina Simpson situation. So, yeah, so we talked, but I did want to let you guys know that I recognize that typically where I'm always teaching people how to communicate, I didn't take my own advice last week, so I need to own that, so that's all. Moving on from that, Brett had shared with me that there's some blowers from 2009 out at the wastewater treatment plant that the person that took the press would possibly be interested in. So is anybody opposed to us getting rid of those at all? And do I need to have any type of, they're like blowers, right? I mean, like.
These, correct me if I'm wrong here, Matt,
they're
these came out of the old lagoon.
They were the aeration for the old lagoon.
Yeah.
We'd only kept them around because there was a possibility, we talked about using them, to aerate the pond instead of having the fountain out there.
And we've got two of them, and we haven't used them since before '09.
They've been sitting here since I started working here.
Anybody
They've never moved.
opposed to getting them out?
I mean, if we're still thinking about using them for the pond, that's great, but otherwise I could really use the floor space if we don't have a use. Cost for what?
We have a
What are
fountain
those
on the bottom.
Don't have a clue. I mean, they're old.
Was it like a floating fountain?
I mean, any new design, I think, would probably have something different anyway.
I really don't want to put something that's, who knows how old in, if we're gonna do that.
I would think even economically,
If it hasn't been ran in 10 years, and we're gonna put it underwater to be used,
may not
Well,
even,
I'm
these
gonna
don't,
guess we're gonna pull it
These
out.
don't go under,
These
yeah,
don't go
these are
underwater.
just
They go
supplying
under
air,
the
but
building.
still, yes, William, the thought process is the same
Right.
though.
Yeah.
It's
atrophy.
old equipment, so.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what it's worth. I mean, we were talking in the shop today. I mean, we were thinking about asking $500 a piece. I mean, the motors are of no use to us. It's a 1,500 horse motor. We have no use for it. Everything we have is bigger than that.
my personal opinion would be, reach out to them and see if that would be something that would be,
Yeah.
if
And
they're interested in that price.
we're also trying to sell something that we don't even know if it truly still works. I mean, it worked when it came out,
Ask them
but
what
it's been
worth.
sitting for 10 years.
Ask them what it's worth to them
Yeah.
before you tell them
so-
$500.
You might wanna advertise it in like, Illinois Rural Water.
We tried that with the press and nobody even bid.
Nobody?
Nobody.
This one you might just because.
Well,
you-
I
you
have
got-
somebody that
oh,
wants it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I have somebody who wants to buy
The
them.
same
For
people
how much?
that bought
Oh,
the press.
okay. Gotcha.
We gave
How
the
much?
other thing away, just give it.
I don't know, we were just,
Not give it away?
we were just spitballing at 500 apiece, but I mean,
Oh.
I could see what they would wanna give for it or whatever, but, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem advertising, but that failed miserably with the press.
Do you wanna reach
So-
out and see would they be willing to,
Yeah, I can talk to Kevin.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can find out,
Yeah.
and then,
Well, I
okay.
mean, we have
Yeah.
to keep in mind, there's a state law that dictates how we dispose of equipment.
Right,
And we have to assume some sort of value on it.
yes.
You can't just give it away. So there's a,
So if they could
There's a
tell us what they'd be
process,
willing to give
but-
for it?
Well, we can donate, but it's a little bit lengthier process than selling. Yes.
So if you wanna reach
Correct.
out and find out that
Yeah,
first,
I'll make
and
a
we'll
call.
go from there.
Yeah, Not a problem. I just wanna make sure everybody was on board with actually doing that, so, that's all.
And then the other thing, that brought that conversation, Brett had said the press is gone, so it's completely cleared out of here. And
It is gone, it left on a
Okay.
trailer last week.
And then he has an update on the well. I'm just gonna let you take care of that one.
I don't have much of an update on the well. I did talk with John Liljo, who is now basically their project manager. Gould's tore apart the pump, according to them, found nothing wrong with it. As of right now, they have found nothing wrong with any of the shafts. So hopefully we will see that going back in the hole around the beginning of next week. They're scheduling it for Monday, as long as everything is done. But nobody's found anything wrong. So,
Just let it vibrate then, I guess.
It's a ghost vibration.
so the only thing I'm thinking to myself is if it goes back in the hole and doesn't vibrate, well, you know, you do the math, but, something changed. So,
this has been vibrating for how many years now?
no.
Well, since they put it back in.
This before?
Yeah, yes. The vibration that we have now is since it went back in the hole when we took it out and did the project, William.
Okay.
Literally, I mean, it shakes the building.
Oh, so this
So-
is
Oh.
more than what the original one.
The original one
This
that we
is more
talked
than-
about
yeah.
from years ago from Lane
From the
was,
calculation,
it
okay.
was referred to in their report as a slight vibration.
This is not a.
You would not
Okay.
even know it was vibrating if you walked in the building.
Okay,
Since we did the well project, last year, you put your hand on the wall and the wall shakes.
I
I
thought
thought
it
this
was
was
the
the
same.
same.
No,
No,
Oh,
they're
no,
not.
much more
no.
severe.
No,
Okay.
no.
And then the other piece is about the, obviously, the rate study and so forth. I did get an email from a resident in terms of their thoughts about it, and their thoughts largely were that we should just look at the difference between the revenue and the operating expenses and do it, you know, so basically, the rate increase cover the operating expenses, not the capital projects, which, not opposed to that either. And that would be a much more reasonable, or like how you use the word palatable, I love that, terminology. If we're talking about, not having to produce the funding for the capital projects, that changes a lot of things. So, I mean, if we're talking about costs, and expenses of the wastewater treatment expenses itself, that's, I'm not opposed to that idea either. I thought that was good feedback. So, I mean, that being said, obviously, Matt has an additional packet that, the last time we met, you did a 5, 8, and a 10-year,
Yes.
and then you did it with putting money back into the, I guess, I don't wanna say program, I don't wanna say program, but.
It's just revenue
Process.
from the landfill. Really just to kind of pay operating expenses, so. Rick, do you have the recent stuff I just handed out? I don't know if people wanna look at their own sheets, or if they want it overhead. I had
Want them on the screen, or you wanna look at the sheets in front of you?
I'm fine with.
We have no public, so.
I got my sheet.
You got your sheet? Everybody's got their sheet? Okay. I am not gonna go through every number, but, I did wanna give everybody a little bit of background. You can peruse this later if you want. The first one the first sheet is the wastewater budget. And we've got fiscal years 2013, 14, all the way through, 18, 19. Brenda got me the last 2 years. So I added those to the spreadsheet, and then what I did was, I did budget options, and I got option A and B. A is the one that we kind of looked at the last meeting, and B is kind of the revised one based off of, you know, kind of taking a look at the previous history plus the last 2 years that Brenda sent me. Just some quick highlights where you kind of see the difference between A and B. There's some minor things, but I'll kind of go through the bigger ones. Just for everybody's information, you can kind of see that on the salaries, starting up underneath the operation maintenance there. You know, the first 3 fiscal years, 13, 14 through 15, 16, I think there was, you know, how you were budgeting and your salaries and stuff was kind of, you know, I don't want to say haphazard, but you were just kind of putting them in different departments and stuff there.
13, 14 through 15, 16, if I recall right, all salaries through all departments were put under the village president.
Yep.
It wasn't until
Yeah.
16, 17 that we started to divide everything out and
So,
track them by department.
yep, so when you take a look, really when you look at, you know, the first 2 lines, the salaries and the contractual services, really just look at like William said, 16, 17 to the present. That's where you're really kind of actually assigning the salary costs where they actually belong in each department. Contractual services, the only thing to note there was, it looks like that, most of the contractual service cost was on the wastewater side, very little on the water side when you take a look at the water budget. And it looks like now in the last 2 years, it's almost split 50-50. So I did make an adjustment in the budget there, went from 35,000 down to 18,000 there. The other big one of note is about 3/4 of the way down, there's chemicals. In the option A, we had a budget of 45,000, and the reason why that was so high was because of the press that you just got rid of. There was a lot of polymer costs that went into dewatering the sludge. So when we started calculating out, you know, how much sludge you're going to be dewatering and how much polymer that you're going to be using, we had a $45,000 budget line item there. I dropped that down to 5,000. Kind of taking a look at maybe what you spent years ago before you started pressing. You can kind of see last year you didn't do any pressing and you spent $174. So that number could even, the 5,000 still could be even a little bit on the high side there. But then if you get down to the subtotal where it says O&M expenses, ignore 14, 15. If you start in, say, 15, 16 and kind of work to the present, you can kind of see that, you know, if anything, it's kind of dropped down and been pretty steady the last couple of years. You know, the budget that we had in the report was $465,000. I've actually done, you know, kind of taking a look at some of the last 2 years of data plus the previous, and I've got the budget down to about $382,100. So we've made a significant drop in the O&M budget. And then down under the revenues, 2 things of note there. The septic tank receivables, you can kind of see it really spiked up in 17 and 18, and it kind of dropped back down last year. I just put 10,000 in there for revenues. I don't know if you think you're going to be at that or above that. Brett, I know you said you weren't really accepting much anymore. I didn't want to keep too much in that line item.
We will have a discussion on that coming up very soon, but yes. Just so you know, Dina.
So
I think I kind of do.
for the rate study purpose here, I really dropped that down to 10,000. And then, there's a, interfund operating transfer in landfill, and I added 2 lines. One is debt, so, you know, we know the landfill's paying for the EPA revolving fund loan debt on the treatment plant. And then I had just one that I labeled operating, and that's what William brought up at the last one, kind of budgeting a little bit on the wastewater side, a little bit on the water side, bringing some revenue from the landfill in. So I budgeted 64,000 there. So when you take a look at that option B, where we're at is about $251,000 short is where we're at, and that's what we're, you know, trying to take a look at in the rate structure when we get later on here, you know, kind of closing that gap.
How come you didn't add anything for, tap-on fees? Those are pretty much guaranteed every year.
What are the?
How many houses did we start this year?
14?
On the spot, Jess. Ballpark.
I thought it was 14. 14 came to mind, so I asked that recently.
Oh, you did, yep.
Yeah, so if we can see a 10 to 15 average, we could probably put the wastewater tap on in there. Or
And-
water tap on.
And the wastewater is
5,000?
Mm-hmm.
per? Okay. I can get that in and kind of revised as well. That might make,
And I'm fine with a conservative number too, because, I mean, that will fluctuate.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with 5.
Why we split the difference to go with 7?
0.5, 7.5.
Whatever. I thought you said 14.
14 would be 7.
Yeah,
This year.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna count. 7.
So,
That's what you call your...
Significant money.
yes, yep,
It is
yep. So we can add something back in there if we want to put 20,000 in that line item, or,
I don't like that.
If you
So-
did 5, I mean, like Sandy said, if you do 5 homes, that's, so then just do 25,000 and then you're...
25?
Yeah.
Yeah, just show something coming in, 'cause I think we're
Okay.
gonna continue.
I think it is, yeah.
I'll get that revised.
Homes out there.
It might tweak the rates even a little bit more. On the water side, the water side unfortunately went in the opposite direction a little bit, partly because under contractual services, that's the main difference. You can see the contractual services, with the exception of 1 year, was really running about 4,000. Now, 15, 17,000. I went from 6 up to 18,000 with the contractual services, because it looks like wastewater went down, water went up, so it kind of negated itself. So when you take a look at down at the very bottom, the O&M expenses, the original budget, we had 234,100. I'm at 256,900. And you can kind of see it's been on a kind of steady incline the last 3 years, 176, 204, 238. So it's been on a pretty steady incline. I'm hoping that's going to really start to really kind of level out, and stuff, and that, you're going to stay below that 256,900 O&M budget, so. And then when you get down to the bottom, on revenue side, probably the only thing I probably need to change there, I put 4,000 in there. I don't know why I did it on the water and not on the sewer, but I had 4,000 in there for connection fees. Maybe that should be a little bit higher. What's the water side?
It should be the same as sewer.
Oh, reconnect.
Count, not dot. Isn't water 8?
750. Mike.
Jess, correct me, thank you.
One significant
Thank you.
cheaper, I thought.
Jess, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe sewer is 5,000,
Is it?
and, water is 1,500?
1,500?
That would be Oval Crossings where they had this existing agreement.
No,
Yes.
so that agreement you're thinking of only impacted sewer fees. I don't.
No,
It's on
we
the-
changed the water rate as well.
William, you got that spreadsheet I sent you last year?
I'm
Hold
telling
on.
you, look, we
More
changed it.
specific.
The only reason they still stayed at 1,500 on their water connection was because they had an agreement.
Give me 2 seconds.
Which spreadsheet?
I wanna say water's 8.
I just want to be consistent. If we're figuring 5 homes on the wastewater side, I'll
Yes.
figure 5 homes on the water side and put it in the budget.
I wanna say it's, because I wanted to say together they were 13,000.
That'd be more than 1,500
Which would-
by a considerable amount.
Yes. And if it's not documented, we probably need to go back and, look.
Water connection fees, Ogle Crossing are 1,700. Harvest Glen is, 5,000 after the first 15 homes of the year, so otherwise it is 0. And then I'd have to look at our annual fee ordinance, which is in your packet, for the rest of them.
Okay. Because when we raised that to 8 though.
No, the only thing that raised was sewer. Sewer is significantly higher than water.
So does that still apply that they're no longer Harvest Glen LLC? That's not building the house.
I believe the agreement is for the development of that property.
We had that conversation. We
I-
can't raise rates on any of them, even though they've all changed hands, because it goes to the subdivision plot, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, because we
Yeah,
tried.
because Ogle Crossing's in the same boat. It still falls under the original development agreement until that expires after 20 years.
the original subdivision agreement has expired on Harvest Glen.
No, it is
But
not.
but
We
did
just expanded
renegotiate
it.
that. If I recall correctly.
We did, back in 2015.
I'm sorry, so I missed the rate. How much is the rate for Harvest Glen?
0.
Currently it's
Until
0?
after the 15th.
Until after the 15 homes and then 5,000.
Thank you. For Plot 10 then, I should assume?
All of it.
We haven't done
That's,
per year, are you saying?
Per year.
15 homes per year.
All right.
Then it goes to 5,000.
All right.
They have not built 15 homes per year.
No, I'm sure they haven't. That would be a
I
0 then
thought
for
that
them.
changed too.
Exactly, I think,
I thought that part changed with the development agreement when it expired.
yeah, I would check the
And the
plat,
new one.
like she said, I'd check the Plat 10 agreement as well.
There is a $1,000 fee, but they don't connect that to water. It's a fee.
I gotta go back and check my documents. I could have sworn we changed that.
We'll work on that, Matt.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the other thing of note, in revenue, interfund operating transfer in from the landfill, I just labeled that. I got 36,000 coming in to kind of subsidize a little bit the water side as well. So when we take a look at it, we're about, $156,200 short on the option B budget. The next page in your packet should be,
I'm gonna interrupt Matt for a second. Rick? Sewer is currently $83.50 per 1-inch connection, and water is $5,000. However, that's only if you don't have a development agreement, and we don't have any of those developers.
Okay.
the next sheet, this one's your only small sheet, 8.5 by 11. It's a summary of the 5-year rate increase, 8-year and 10-year. One thing of note, hopefully I got the figures from the original report. If you take a look at the total combined water and sewer rate, what we're proposing to get to eventually would be $19.40. But with the change in the budget, operation and maintenance portion of the budget, and then adding in that transfer from the landfill into both of them, that has come down to $16.27. So we've dropped the rate by $3.13 per 1,000 gallons, based off the current revisions. That could tick down a little bit more once we figure in these connection revenues and connection revenues as well. So, but if you take a look at the 5-year rate increase, you can kind of see, basically, I've got the years off, obviously on the left side, 10 years. We've got the water rate. Obviously, your existing rate is 2019, and then what we want to go to in subsequent years for the water rate and the sewer rate, and then what the total would be for basically a 5, 8, and a 10-year increase. Probably the more important one are the big 11 by 17 sheets. The first one is the 5-year rate. And you can kind of see, like I said, really if you want to take a look at average user, you're probably wanting to look at that 5,000 gallons per month usage. So you can kind of see what that increase would be. So, with the 5-year rate increase, you got a $9.25 increase in 2020, and then $9.30, $9.25, $9.30, and $9.25 and $24. So on a percentage basis, the percentage is always going down, even though the dollar amount of the increase is about the same, because you're, obviously, when you make that same dollar increase, your bill's higher the next year, so the rate is actually coming down. The 8-year, you can kind of see when you take a look at percentage-wise and dollar-wise, obviously you're by spreading it out, your dollar increase per year is coming down, and so is your percentage. But, the one, obviously, whether it's a 5-year, 8-year, or 10-year, by the time you get to last year, your rate is the same for all three by the time you get to that last individual year. It's just you're spreading out that increase over a longer period of time.
That's my might be a David question, but I know, I know by law, we're not allowed to handcuff a future board on finances and determination. So even if we were to vote on, let's say, the 5 or the 8-year plan, how can you, is that something that has to be re-voted on every year, right?
So,
No.
in doing research on this, I looked at the city of DeKalb, who has done this, and they've approved theirs in 2015 for a 5-year increase, which would have tied the hands of the next board. So I don't know, that it's not possible, and
I didn't say it's not,
I would think it is, because it's not necessarily tying their hands,
I guess
because they
it's
can
more
go
like
back in and
you're
change
not-
it.
expenditures, you can't do that.
You're not
It's
making a
revenue.
contractual agreement with somebody to
Yeah.
do something, that's something we can't do, but something raising the rates, because a future board could come
I mean-
and stop it.
Right.
I mean, you know, as long as quite frankly, as long as the board doesn't mind, you know, bringing it up every year and making the modification every year, there's no reason you can't, you know, you can pick whatever 5, 8, or 10-year you want to do and just pass the rate every single year. And then you can start tracking, always, you know, track the costs. I can get the numbers from Brenda and keep adding to that annual tabulation. You can kind of see if there's any new trends, whether it's leveling out, whether you're seeing a dramatic increase, and what you're proposing is good. Communities that like to do, you know, take a look at a 5-year window and set the rate for 5 years, or set a rate and then do an automatic, you know, 2 or 3% increase, those are the ones that, you know, generally don't want to bring it up, you know, for a vote every year, because it's just, you know, one of those things where
Well, we have, like,
the residents get, you know, riled up with the rate increase, and they do it once, and
well, and we had, there was like 2 residents that gave feedback, in addition to the 1 resident that I just shared earlier tonight. There was one last week that said, just do it in one shot and be done with it. But at the same time, obviously, looking at what we have, there's a lot of people that wouldn't be able to manage that. So like, then, at the same time, that's where when you had said the thing about what's palatable, it makes me wonder whether or not everything has to be, whether it has to be 100%, or whether or not we could talk about just the expenses and costs that go into it, as opposed to doing all the capital projects. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you can always make modifications to it if you want to find a happy medium, if you want to go with, you know, say an 8-year rate increase and start off with it, you know, with year 1, and then always just, you know, kind of reevaluate, and you know, obviously the nice thing, by the time you get to the end of the year, you know, your end of your fiscal year is April 30th, so by the time you get to the end of the year, you've got your audited numbers, you know what you spent in water and wastewater, you can kind of reevaluate the situation and decide, you know, the 8-year track is a good track, or maybe you find out that, you know, things are leveling off, and maybe you don't need to do as big an increase if you don't want to.
Can I make a statement?
Yep.
As somebody who wrangles and hounds this board for every 6 months to review closed session minutes, and wrangles and hounds this board about annual fee ordinances, I, as clerk, would really like if this village board, if they chose to do tiered increases, that it all be in one ordinance, and leave it to the annual review process, that if you guys don't like it at that point, that it be taken out, as opposed to having to put it in every year. I'm just afraid of trying to get that process done every year.
I agree.
I agree.
It's not an easy decision to make, get it made once and review it every year at the time of the,
Well, and I think it's easier just to whatever we do decide, if we do like over a period of 5 years or whatever, to be able to actually have it all spelled out in one shot, so it's very clear for everybody that needs to see it, anybody that questions, anybody that moves here, anything like that, it's laid out.
And because it will be a part of the annual fee ordinance, you will see it every year for review, and you guys can decide any time that you want to change it, but
Right,
it's
'cause you could
easier.
always do the numbers at any time, keep them
Yeah.
to review that, but then decide at this point in time it's not necessary, or at this point in
Yeah.
time, whatever.
Yes, but I would prefer that whatever decision be made be done all at once.
I'd rather it be just,
Well-
actually written out, just because I don't wanna have to go through this every time.
I would say,
And the portion of the budget that you really need to be evaluating is really just the O and M portion of the budget. I mean, you know, we should be collecting for, you know, the equipment replacement portion of it. We've kind of worked out a budget, what we think with the water and the wastewater side, what we should be collecting. You're not gonna be spending that every single year, you know, like I said, on the water side, you're not pulling a pump every single year. You should be only pulling the pump every 8 to 10 years, but when you do, it's gonna be a big ticket item. It's the same thing with the water tower painting, you know, you're gonna be doing that every 20 to 25 years, but when you do it, it's a big ticket item. So, you know, you definitely wanna try to be collecting that equipment replacement dollar amount, you know, and stuff. What you wanna really be looking at is your operation maintenance trends. If, you know, if you can hold those costs, you know, if you looked on your wastewater side, you know, you were pretty consistent the last 2 years, about 330,000. You know, water, not so consistent. That seems to be trending upward at an increase or at a percentage that I think it's probably on the high side. I'm hoping it's gonna level off for you there, but,
what number do you use for a transfer into the funds?
Looks like 100,000 altogether.
yeah, I did 100,000. I did, just,
If you wanna
the way I broke it out was I took the dollar amount of the budget and then of water and wastewater, and then I broke it out by that percentage. So I did 36,000 on the water and 64 on
Did you wanna
the
do it with a larger
wastewater.
number?
I thought I had asked for, you know, 100, 200, and other options, but, I mean.
Ooh, sorry if I missed that one.
No, I would love to see it with like a $500,000 contribution from the village.
Here's what I talked with.
Cause we could pull it, out of savings, or,
What I talked with Dina yesterday was, I said, because Matt brought up 2 weeks prior that we should really go into an enterprise fund, if I'm not mistaken, right? An enterprise account for the treatment plant and the water account, that it shouldn't just be sitting in our general fund every time.
Right.
And then I'm not opposed.
What's the difference on how you account for it?
it's the,
It
well,
makes
still money.
absolutely no difference.
I really appreciate you saying that,
Yeah,
because the
there's a-
person who sat in that chair for 10 years prior to you, every time we said that, he just kept writing more checks and passing more street projects, because the money was there.
Alright.
so the.
I'm just telling you that how you account for it makes.
Let's break it
of
down
no
into social
consequence.
security. Why was social security put in the general fund and what happened to it?
I mean, I know there's
I
communities
don't really
that,
understand that comment.
I know
Oh,
there's communities
got waste.
that run, I think, off of maybe 1 or 2 accounts, and all their money is in 1 or 2 accounts, and they determine how much is, you know, from an accounting standpoint, how much cash is on the water side, sewer side,
I can
general fund
appreciate-
side, but it's a number. Somebody's accounting for it in a program that they're, you know,
I can appreciate you being the accountant, can say that what does it matter if the money's there, is there?
No, I
And
don't, it doesn't matter to me.
From my perspective of me sitting here, looking at the pie for the entire village, I see $1 amount. I can pull up the treasurer's report now and I see $1 amount. If it's in a separate fund, I can say, that's the treatment plant, that's the water plant, this is the capital improvement fund.
But
This
if
is
you're
the
short,
general
you're still
fund.
gonna rob Peter to pay Paul with it.
That's
like-
not true.
No, it's,
We've always
it's
done that.
irrelevant. I mean, I've done fund accounting for 15 years. How you wanna account for it is up to you. I don't really care. It makes no difference to me whatsoever. How you pay for it, that does.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
So go ahead with what you were saying, you said to Dina. We never made it.
Well, so he brought up the painting of the water tower, and I just had this conversation this past fall with Brett. He's saying that, you know, it looks like there's some staining or rust or whatever the issue was with the water tower. He's said we have to pay for it, or, paint it and clean it. And I believe I told him, I said, we're aware. It's been presented to this board, and the money is available. We've said we have it. So this capital expenditures that he's talking about, we are aware of some of them, and we have saved for them, and that if we were to do the enterprise fund or its own fund balance, I'd have no problem transferring some of the reserve money that we have over to that to create a balance in that as a startup account, which would, I would believe, offset some of these costs, versus having to start from scratch.
Why do you have to
Make
go
up
into
some
reserves?
others.
It would just,
It's
well,
it's
right,
reserves or capital, expenditures. It's just-
Well, I mean, we've been subsidizing both the water and wastewater treatment
Yes.
for years, right? And we've never dipped into the reserves. You're clearly just saying you're going to funnel now whatever we were using, and I don't mean you, I mean this board is
Right.
saying, we're going to funnel whatever we were using to supplement the wastewater treatment and the water, I don't know however you want to say it, the water plant, and we're going to shove that money over here, and we're going to bill the residents more money to pay for something where we're just taking the money and moving it over here. What are we doing with that money now?
What you're doing is you're shuffling, you're gonna move that money over to a fund to start supporting the wastewater and wastewater to be on its own. Since you're no longer gonna pay for that stuff out of the general fund, move that money over there so that the money the residents have to pay would be less to start building that fund up.
No, that's not what we're talking about. You're just saying,
No.
no.
I think it is what we're talking about.
No, we've been supplementing both of them for years,
Right.
right? Now you're gonna move that money away, and you're saying temporarily, we're gonna set that money aside and use it while we raise the rates. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that for the last few years, all the revenues come into the general fund, all the revenues go into the general fund from water and wastewater. If we separate water and wastewater into their own funds, and they have their own sinking funds for these repairs, we can move some of those funds that have come into the general fund over the years.
That's just accounting.
It is, but it shows up as a separate place now.
I understand
trying
that,
to get
and it
them to
makes
stand
it
on their
easier for people who are looking at it, but it's not really
Same
a
money.
necessity. It is the same money.
But doesn't it?
As a resident, and this is my concern, as a resident, you're going to now charge me more for a service I've been getting. I know it's being supplemented, but a service I've been getting that's actually gonna cost me more out of my pocket as a resident to pay for these, so that we can move money to the general fund or wherever else, or out to use on something else.
So no, okay, so
I
like,
don't
I don't
think
think
you're-
so.
I
no.
disagree with that. I think what
So
you're looking at
maybe-
is, I'm sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I guess what I'm thinking of, unless I'm totally misunderstanding it, if there is money that has been revenue that we have set aside for years to pay for some of these projects and so forth, then if the money has come from that revenue, rather than starting out at what I would consider to be ground zero, we would actually move some of that over, so the rates that we'd be raising would be far less than what we would have originally had to do by starting out for ground zero. I don't think it's paying for, maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, and maybe a little bit.
I think what we're trying to get across is, right now, we're talking about raising the rates to $16 with the amount of money we looked at transferring. Because we're originally starting off with the sinking fund at zero. Now we're looking at creating it with $100,000. If we look at moving $250,000, $500,000, $1 million into that, we can actually bill the residents less because we've already started.
I get your, I
Less
just
of
disagree with
less
your.
of the increase.
Right.
Less of the increase.
How much do we supplement currently, both the
Not less money,
wastewater
less
and
of the-
water currently?
About
supplement?
$400,000 apparently.
Yes, and now you're
Yeah.
talking about just paying $100,000. So you're going to move $300,000 to wherever, and we're not going to use it for wastewater and water. That's what you're saying. What are we gonna use that money on?
That will be used for water and wastewater. That's what it's going into, is for the repairs in the water and wastewater.
It has been, you're saying you're going to move it away.
Moving it from the general fund into.
It's just a separate, I think what they're saying is just a separate account for it, you know, and stuff is, it's designated,
Right
it's
now, the money
designated
in the general
for,
fund can be used for anything. If we take it out and put that money into the water and wastewater
All right,
account, it won't be used for.
let's try it again. Let's try it a different way. Let's go at this a different way. If we totally didn't supplement at all, and we raised the rates to $16, whatever, per, then it would pay for itself.
No.
What are you doing with the
No.
money?
no,
No.
no. We are not we're not even doing it at 1940, technically.
We're not even close.
1940 gets us close, with the exception of the paying back the IEPA revolving fund loan. That's always gonna be
That will stay in the
supplemented.
general fund.
Yes.
No, I realize that, but
Yeah.
well, no, I'm saying for just the operation, not the debt.
Correct.
According to your page, the maximum in 5 years, with a total of a water rate at 7.65 and sewer rate at 8.65, is then 16.27. So you're saying that wouldn't cover everything, or are you saying
No.
that's with $100,000?
That's
So
what,
you'd even have to be higher than that. So, but this would take care of 300,000?
we got $100,000 right now worth of subsidies into water and wastewater at the $16.27.
For both. So truthfully, to.
Total between the two departments, 36
Yeah,
on one
right, so
and,
you're saying the total between per thousand would be around $20. And that would save us $400,000. And we wouldn't have to put anything from the general revenue into the fund. Is that correct?
say that again, Chris. I wanna make some,
If a resident paid roughly, and this is roughly, $20 per 100,000 for both,
Per thousand?
per thousand, for, you know, the combination
mhm.
water and wastewater,
Okay.
then that, we would not have to supplement that at all.
No, the only supplement would be to pay the IEPA revolving fund loan. And you would be, with that rate, you would be collecting roughly $200,000 a year that would go into basically a equipment replacement account that you can use to replace equipment, well pumps, paint the water tower, replace pumps at lift stations.
Right, and my question to this board is, you're gonna save then $400,000 from the general revenue, what are you using it for? Because as a resident, my thing is, I care about what affects my pocket, and you're raising my rates from $3.50 or $7 if you wanna combine the two of them, to $20, either in 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, or tomorrow. Why would I want that when you're just gonna use $400,000 to spend on something else?
But we wouldn't have to do that almost
we would.
$20.
I know what, I think I get what
We
you're
would
do.
spend the
He's
money
wanting-
somewhere else.
So he's wanting to know if we're charging the resident the $400,000 a year, what are we gonna do with the $400,000 we currently have?
that we're
Is
supplementing.
that correct?
That's exactly what I'm
Okay,
asking.
in simple terms. So, we're gonna be billing $400,000 in 5, 8, 10 years more to the residents for water and sewer. Of course, you realize 8 years at the current rate of the landfill, it could be gone by then.
I do realize
So you
that.
have no money to subsidize with.
I
But,
realize that.
at the 8-year, 10-year point, we're billing the residents an additional $400,000. The $400,000 we used to subsidize that with, what are we gonna do with that money? If it even still exists.
in the general fund.
Which we'll spend.
Yes, on
Well,
something
hopefully-
that, as a resident,
It's like
might not
making more money so you
want.
spend more money, that's what we've done. I mean, you can look at it
I-
historically, that's what we've done.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that we
Why-
shouldn't raise the rates. I'm not saying that at all. I'm
No.
saying I wanna know if we're just, you know, using the money to spend on something else that, when, as a resident, I would prefer my rates not to go up to $20 or.
Well, getting back to what,
It's a matter of trying to get water and wastewater to stand on their own.
I mean, getting back
I understand the
to-
concept, trust me.
getting back to, before the meeting started, I think William had mentioned, there, in the budget there, we had, in 14-15, there was a big capital outlay in both water and wastewater, and that was to pay off some bonds. And when they paid off the bonds, I think William said that the whole advantage there was they were gonna save $750,000 a year in interest, and that savings was gonna go into, if you want, lack of a better term, a reserve account, and they would build up. Well, you've just been spending it on street work and other things, and stuff. So I think getting back to your point, Chris, yes, if these rates go up, if you freed up $300,000 or $400,000 in subsidies from the landfill, hopefully that money is going to eventually end up into some sort of reserve account. I don't know what your comfort level is for cash on hand and reserve. I mean,
We paid,
I think most communities try to keep 6 to 12 months
We
in reserve
we have,
operating.
currently, we have more than that, if you ever, well, you don't see the treasurer's report.
Right.
But we have reserves.
we paid off that bond, we had a little over 10 million in
We had
reserve.
almost 11 million, and the consensus was, when we paid off that bond, that the 750,000 that we were gonna save on the interest was gonna go back into the reserves to offset the 7 million we took out.
Right.
Because we went from 11 million down to 3.5
I
in
think,
reserves.
I think the question would be, I guess, and the board would know better than I, would be if you raise the rates, reduce the subsidy from the landfill, for water and wastewater, is that money gonna go into just a reserve account? Or does the village have other needs in other departments that they could really be using that money for instead of subsidizing water and sewer? If the answer is, and I think maybe, if I understand Chris right, if the answer is no, that you don't have really any other use for that money, then why not just continue to subsidize water and sewer?
Well, I'm not saying there isn't another use for it. I'm saying as a resident, I don't know if there's a valid use that I'd prefer over, so that my rates go up. In that
Right.
case, just tax me more,
So-
and I'll pay for that in a different way. I
The
mean,
one
it's
point
up
some
to
odd
you.
million dollars we just spent on the street, literally in front of your house,
No,
is a
No.
valid use.
no,
So, I think internally,
Oh, was it only half a million?
yes.
Okay.
I think internally, and stuff, the board's gotta take a look at that. You gotta take a look at the pie. You know your revenue sources. Landfill, a little bit of property taxes, motor fuel tax, water and sewer revenue. I'm sure I'm missing probably some other minor ones, but, there's your pie, and you gotta figure out how you gonna spend that pie.
Me personally, Chris, I know exactly where you're coming from now that I finally, after the 15 minutes of hearing you, I think I got what you're trying to
Sorry,
ask.
maybe I didn't go about it the best way.
Well, I know how you feel from 2 weeks ago, apparently. But, no, if it freed up $400,000, one thing that's bugged me since I've been on this board is doing annual roadwork projects every year, after year, after year. And what I would prefer is to save enough money to have it all done at one shot. Now, that's gonna be pretty significant. I'm talking probably $10 million. And that's where saving that would come in handy. However, I'm one person and one vote.
Not only that, but you also think, we are sitting now 10 years from the point that the wastewater plant was built. We are 21 years from the point that the water system was installed. This stuff ages, and as it ages, it starts to deteriorate, and that's one of the things we're gonna start seeing more of, and you can see it literally on these sheets. You can see as it starts for the capital work has increased, so what are we gonna use a lot of those funds for? Right back to fixing, but the thing is, the revenues from the increased rates won't be going back into the general fund. The revenues from the increased rates will be going into the water and
Yeah,
sewer fund.
and they have capital improvements built into them, so
Yes.
theoretically, you shouldn't have to use it for that.
But it is.
No,
Those rates are going to build up those accounts for those capital
Did you not,
improvements.
did you not account in the rates for capital improvements? You accounted for that in these rates?
Capital improvements being equipment replacement
Yes,
Yes,
type
that's
work.
what I mean. Equipment
minus the
replacement.
money that we put forth.
I mean, those line items,
That's-
Chris, I mean, if you take a
that's
look
my
on the,
understanding.
if you take a look at the, wastewater system, if you go down to depreciation expense, equipment replacement, that's almost $116,000. And then if you take a look on the water side, capital improvements, expense, $86,000. So you got a little over $200,000 a year that we're putting away for water and wastewater equipment replacement.
Question if I'm, just so I can help to understand here. So when you say, equipment replacement, let me ask you this then. Does the rate increase, say, for example, cover the $300,000 water tower project for next year? You know what I'm talking about, the inside,
Right.
not even the outside. We're not even talking about the outside.
Not
Does
on,
that
not
cover
on not on an individual basis, but in
Okay.
theory, if you had these equipment replacement funds in place and you were putting money aside, then yes. And typically what happens is, your operation and
An
maintenance,
average.
your operation and maintenance expenses hopefully are going up at a reasonable rate. Your equipment replacement or your capital program, that's gonna be all over the board. I mean, you could have years that you run very low and you've got excess money coming in and you put it aside. And then you're gonna get the water tower that's gonna have a $300,000 expense. Your revenues aren't gonna cover it. So that money that you've been saving for maybe the previous 3 or 4 months or 3 or 4 years, you take that reserve, you plug it in as a revenue, if you wanna call it an
Interfund transfer.
interfund transfer, but it's not gonna be from the landfill. It's gonna be from your reserve account.
Okay, like
Yeah,
I said, it's just
yeah.
helping me understand where we're
Yes
drawing the
and,
line.
yes and no, on
Equipment.
on,
So
if
that's-
Chris,
you're,
I wanted to clarify too, I'm sorry, I kind of
Yes, I get it now.
got
Yep.
off on the confusion of earlier. I understand what you're saying. Those, so the funds wouldn't go back into the general fund. They would go into the water and sewer funds, but we still have that 400,000 in the general fund.
Right.
So I wanted to at least clarify that.
All right, I'm done, I'm sorry.
No. Good discussion.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Yep. Gotta think of all options.
I
Hold on.
understand the need to raise rates. Now that I see the capital improvement, or the capital, where is it at here? Just marked it. Capital improvement expense, that's what I was trying to express 2 weeks ago, that, in my opinion, those things should still come out of our tipping fees for the next possibly 20 years.
So kind of more on the lines of the resident that, Dina got some feedback on, is basically get the rates in place to really handle operation maintenance. Operation maintenance, anything that's, capital improvement, equipment replacement expense, that would be the subsidy amount.
That's what I was attempting to express
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
It's easy enough to run those numbers, you know, and stuff with that in the budget.
Can I add a statement to this? Just totally throw you off. The supervisors have been working diligently. The numbers you see in there for salaries, we hope to at some point also divide benefits and the rest, of those costs. Right now, Social Security, retirement, all of that is, for every employee, is currently coming out of admin. And so those costs we hope to eventually divide across the departments as well. So that number will also be going up. I don't know how to calculate for that.
So is that the direction the board wants to take the rate increase then, is to take the capital work out of it, leave it in the general fund, leave it subsidized by the landfill for the life of the landfill?
I'd certainly like to see how that would
I would
change it.
entertain the numbers.
Yeah, I would like to see how
Yes,
it
I'd
changes
like
it.
to see that as well.
Just some quick numbers on the wastewater side. If I up the 64,000 up to the 115,900 to match that equipment replacement expense, based off of billable volume, should lower the rate by $1.06 per thousand. And let me check the water side here a minute. Give me a second. And on the water side, that should lower it by about $1.32. So what'd I give you? $1.32 plus $1.06?
Yeah.
So it could bring that $16.27 figure down another $2.38. So now you're down to $13.89 at the end. Then it's just a matter of going through the 5, 8, and 10 year.
That's still at the 100,000 transfer?
No, that would be, now what we're doing is, the transfer in is going to basically match on the water side. Right now, the transfer in is 36,000, and we're gonna make that 86,000, Rick, to basically match the, capital improvement expense. And then on the wastewater side, we have 64,000 of transfer in for operating. We're gonna increase that to 115,900 to match the depreciation equipment replacement expense. So we're about doubling the amount of transfer in, basically.
Can you rerun the numbers and get them back to us then?
Yep.
Before noon on Wednesday, November 27th.
Not specific, though.
Because of Thanksgiving, I need it by Wednesday.
noon on Wednesday.
That's 8 days.
Thanks.
Got it.
Matt? Thank you, sir.
Yep.
I would imagine you're all thankful that that's all I have.
Community development events?
Yeah, Jen.
I know, I'm in the middle of something, chill. I have, I'm still doing the party, planning the party. Other than that, I don't think I have anything.
All right.
Seventh, I thought.
Finance?
What, yeah, December 7th, sorry. And the blood drive is the 5th. So those are the two events I'm working on.
On here is the discussion of the draft for the tax levy ordinance. We discussed back in September, just doing the normal 5% increase. If there's no discussion on that, Sandy will put it on the, threw it out. September 17th, 2019. I did not throw it out. There's a discussion on the draft ordinance adopting and levying a municipal cannabis retailers occupation tax.
After we passed all of the stuff that allows us to have medical, or to have cannabis within the village, the Illinois Department of Revenue has requested that if somebody ever comes and we want to receive a 3% sales tax that we're entitled to, we must also pass this ordinance. And so even though it may be 10 years from now before we get one, it's better to pass it now so that it's on the books the moment that we receive a business like that. Otherwise, they will only be accepting them in September of every year. So we'd like to get in on this first wave, so at least it's on the books.
Without any objection, we'll just have her put it on the
That's fine.
consent agenda. Teacher donation? I'm assuming it's that time of year again. Brenda's probably wanting to know. I'm guessing she's getting inquiries, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I've been getting them at school too.
Yeah.
Any objection from continuing it?
Nope.
None
I will
here.
pass it along. Not on here is, we did get our draft audit. I started reviewing it today. I will do a little more reviewing. I'll leave it at that and let you guys look at it yourself once it's approved. I read a couple things that were surprising to me, so that's all. As well, I had a conversation with Brenda. Our high yield investment account, that's the account that we use to pay our bills with, our daily checking account. It was pretty high. And in a conversation with her, we decided that we transferred $1 million into our Charles Schwab investment account. So that should put us upwards of about 5.9 in investments.
Awesome.
On that note, I went back through my emails. The last time we had Sawyer Faldudo out here was early March, and we directed them every 6 to 12 months. So you guys tell me if you want them to come back again.
Yes, I think so.
January?
I say, yeah, can we do it after the new
Yeah.
year?
I will reach out to them.
I just found that report.
I didn't realize it had been that long.
I did not either,
I just felt like that was like a couple months ago.
No, I just found that report. I was going through paper.
for January. Got it. That's all.
All right. Ordinance enforcement?
All right, well, guess we're on discussion about the mowing service for ordinance mows. I looked into it. I want MGS to do it. They're fully insured. And, I talked to a couple other companies. They weren't willing to go with the requirements I would like. So MGS is about the only one that would be, eligible to do it. So it's gonna range anywhere from 30 to 40 bucks for them to come out and mow. If they have to weed eat, it's extra charge. general, most lots in Davis Junction, they said is $30. So it just depends what lot. If they have to weed eat, it's an additional charge. So I'd like to put that on agenda to, approve it next week.
Well,
We
don't
need-
we I thought we talked about we had to bid that out.
We do not have to bid it out. I suggested bidding,
It's not enough money to bid it out.
can I talk for a moment? So, I suggested bidding it out, one, for fairness, and two, for that we can assure our residents we have received the lowest price possible. And something like that is probably something I can just get from another municipality and adjust. I will reconfirm David's concerns from last week, which is regardless of who we use, we should have an agreement with them so that both parties are covered. And so if this is something the village board wants to move forward with, we need to move forward with asking David or even our local council to prepare something that protects this village from them and it protects them from any liabilities as well. So there needs to be a written agreement in place.
Whatever you've asked them in specifics for terms to do, get that to Sandy so she can, I would say use the local council because they're cheaper.
I don't disagree with that.
And see if they can get a draft agreement together and see if, and then let MGS, review it. That way you have the terms of what we're agreeing to and what they're gonna provide the village for that fee.
All right. With the ordinance mows, that would be in additional to other fees incurred because of a vacant lot mowing? Because otherwise, if the cheapest mowing is a lucrative business for a bank who owns a home, heck, I'll let them mow it every week for $30. There's not an incentive then anymore for anyone to come mow their grass.
No,
There is still the fine on top of it.
There is.
And we will keep that
The need
with
for
it.
the
Correct.
lowest one is, because as I explained, we have 2 homes right now that owe us each probably, I don't know, just like $750 apiece maybe?
Yeah.
About $750 in mowing,
So
for
we'll
our
continue
time.
the fining then, so.
but we will never see a penny of it. One is in foreclosure and one is in
But we wanna make
bankruptcy.
sure
There's money gone. So every time we continue to mow those properties, we're doing it at our expense, which is why it's important to have the lower cost.
In that situation.
Wait, the lowest cost would be us doing it ourselves, right? But in this
Yes.
case,
Not
we're trying
really.
to save you,
Not necessarily.
the time and.
No, because we're using our money, we're taking Fergie and all our guys.
No, I'm not
out
opposed to
doing
I'm not opposed to it. I'm fine with that. I'm saying that we're trying to save them the work, right, by giving it, or by having MSD do it.
Yes.
I'm not opposed to that. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, just to clarify, because it's been a while since you and I talked about it, Jared, so I just want to make sure we were on the same page. This was all ordinance mows, or just the ones that we were not able to get to? What direction were you,
All
I
ordinance
know we talked
mows.
about it. All ordinance mows?
Yes.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
So, yeah, get that information to Sandy, she can get it to the local council to get an agreement, that would have those terms that you've discussed with them.
So you just want the prices and agreement that they're willing to do it?
Jared, give me the name of the party and any terms that you've discussed with them, and our attorney will fill in the rest. But there are gonna be requirements on insurance and things like that, and liability, and all of those other things that the attorney will put in. And I'm sure those are not things that you've discussed with them, so just give me,
MGS, I talked to a lady, and I mean, they really
Can you
can't give a
send me an
flat rate
email?
out. What?
can you send me an email with everything in it?
Yeah, I can
Thank
get
you.
that information to you.
Thank you.
Because that way we have something to go back on. If they don't do something that they're supposed to do, our agreement will then specify what it was.
And now we're on to the, draft resolution adopting Ogle County Municipal Judicial All Hazards Migration Plan. Sandy contacted me, this was a thing that was started, I think, back in February, to get money for a man-made or natural disaster. And I think Sandy said we're $40,000, wasn't it? You gave me an amount, how much we were supposed to be able to get.
Oh, I did not. I don't even know what that dollar amount would be. You may have received that information at
Well,
one of those meetings.
I wasn't able to go to any of the meetings, so you didn't attend them, so
I only attended
it's
the
all on
last
your plate.
Well,
Okay,
back to the
so
point.
here's, as I discussed, back in February, Jared was unable to attend the final Ogle County All Hazard Mitigation meeting, so I attended in his absence. At that meeting, I learned that the plan had essentially been finalized based on the information that I was able to turn over to them. In order to receive funding through FEMA, you do have to have this plan in place. So Ogle County's is old and outdated, and so this is the current one. At this point, every municipality that is participating in Ogle County is being asked to adopt a resolution similar to this, so that the plan can be adopted at the Ogle County level once each of the municipalities has adopted it. So this resolution is simply just adopting the plan that we worked through last
Ogle
year
County?
and with Ogle County.
Didn't we adopt something already that, so we could get reimbursed for any of our expenses, or?
That was different. So that is from IEMA, and that is for the Emergency Operations Center, the EOC. It's for the EOC.
Yeah,
So that's the reimbursement of our cost for the EOC. This is for disasters, like we've used it in the past when we had that major snowstorm, and we had costs incurred with that. We were able to use funding for that. So this would be for disasters,
But
not
it's
for...
it's tantamount to the same thing, not the same exact thing, but the same idea. You
Yes.
have to pass it to get reimbursed for
Yes.
your costs.
Yeah.
That's all
Yes.
I want to know. All right, thanks.
Any opposition to putting it on the next agenda? All right. Anything further, Jared?
Nope.
Parks?
Welcome aboard, Nathan. Did you have anything you'd like to say this evening?
Day two?
Day two.
Not necessarily, but I've been welcomed by the staff here and getting my bearings, so to speak, and figuring out who's who and what's where and all those types of things. Kenny's reached out to me and offered his assistance, so I'm sure I'll reach out and talk to him when time comes for various events and things. So, getting ready for the holiday party and getting totes out of the sewage treatment plant. Fergie took me around on a tour. So, yeah, just really looking forward to being here and participating and working for this village. And good thing it's a down time in the winter, so I can at least get more acquainted with things and not get thrown right into the fire. So, but everything's been wonderful, and I'm glad to be aboard. And thank you for.
Well, welcome aboard. Good to have you, Nathan.
Did you get your CDL yet? Or are you working on it?
I was studying today, and I'm gonna probably go up, take a test sometime this week, and then have to go out and drive around for a little bit.
The only other thing I have is off the parks. I did have one resident call me who just was wondering what water rate study really meant. Maybe not everyone's as versed as we are, that means we could potentially raise your water rate and your water sewer bill could potentially go to this dollar amount. I don't know if we're gonna continue to do those, maybe add some verbiage for those who don't necessarily understand this could raise your water rates or potentially could raise your water rates. You might maybe have more participation at a meeting when people find out their bills could go up. I mean,
I was gonna say,
not everyone's understanding what that really means.
so did they not read any of the articles? I mean, I'm just curious.
Well, you know how some people are, when they read things, they just read it, No, I doubt very much this individual read through and I doubt a lot of people read through all of that.
Oh, no, John, I worked very diligently on creating 3 very short articles that wouldn't take more than 2 minutes to read for every resident, so that there was I wasn't gonna force any resident to read those reports, because the rest of us were forced to. And so those summaries were there for a reason.
Yeah, I understand that. Not everybody knows what a shed is at Harbor Freight either, so I'm just passing it along to do my due diligence, so.
Touche. Thank you for the feedback.
You're welcome.
And
Any further,
feel
John?
free to invite them anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We're here every Tuesday.
I'll get on that one. No, I have nothing else.
I have, is there anything that we can do? Because I see they're spray painting on the path to stop them.
No.
From
Get black spray
digging
and
it.
spray over.
No, I seriously am having a hard time with this.
They're gonna,
They were in that house at least 3 weeks prior to us doing that path. And now they want their gas turned on? They've been in that house
well, I
long
don't disagree
enough.
with you, but
That
I'm
is
afraid
just
we're gonna
very
lose
irritating.
No, state of Illinois gives them a lot of authority.
Yes, and they're gonna ruin the path.
Like, I think they should have to pay for it to be repaved.
The whole thing,
Yes.
at least in between the two roads.
But now we know how all the residents feels when their driveways got cut for the road expansion, so there you go.
But you know what?
I agree with
Those driveways were there for years prior to being cut,
True.
not a
Not
few
3 weeks.
weeks, and then they decided, and it was already dug up.
My
Well, I'm
driveway
just
was
as-
there for 1 year and then it was cut up
Just as upset
again.
about it as you are, but, no, I don't believe it.
They wanted, they did the same thing at Junction Way. They wanted to cut into the road up there right after it was put in. Anything further, John?
No, that's it.
Streets?
What day is the last street sweep, weather permitting, supposed to happen? Is that the November 21st or 23rd? I can't remember.
Yeah, right in there, 21st, something like that.
All right. Just for any residents who wanted to know, there's
Like I
a
said,
final street sweep. I was actually wrong last week. I thought there were only 3, but there are 4. And the last one, weather permitting, should be November either 21st or 23rd. I can't remember.
I don't have it with me, but yes, it's right in
Otherwise,
there.
that's all the street has.
Any further?
it.
Anybody have any questions on the water usage report? Fuel report,
No, sir.
we already did the discussion on subdivision and mowing fees. Is that something different?
Currently charge a $250 fine. There was a discussion a few weeks ago that maybe that was too high.
I think that came from you.
I told you guys to move on.
That's, everybody's looking at him.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did, yeah.
All right.
So we're
Alright,
good, yeah,
I told you
no-
guys to move on.
No issue.
Moving on, discussing on burning.
Told you to move on also.
All right.
Since that has occurred, we did have a resident in here with, discussing that exact same issue with the exact same concerns.
Wasn't me.
It was not you. So that resident did come in, concerned about the burning of the landscape waste. I assured them that because it's landscape waste, we can't do anything. It's coming from the property.
That's not true. We could change the ordinance, but
Yes, and that's why I am bringing it up again. So I didn't know if you guys wanted to put any more restrictions on commercial spaces or just leave it as is. Or, I don't know what you guys want to do because people are burning landscape waste.
we provide free yard waste pickup.
Not
about-
for commercial.
Commercial can't burn, shouldn't be able to burn anything anyways.
That's not the way our ordinance reads, so if that's
It
something
said
you'd
that
like
commercial
to change.
should not be able to burn anything anyways.
Yeah.
Should.
Would you like to
So then you
change,
think we should change
are you
the
making a
ordinance?
recommendation?
I think that's was my position when we brought this up a month ago.
And so what's the
Nobody
board's,
wanted to.
so if the commercial is out, what's the board's thoughts on the
Who's burning where?
residential landscape
Going meadows.
waste?
The mobile home park is burning their landscape waste, and
gotcha.
it's a very decent-sized pile, and it is, blowing into people's homes, and,
So does anybody have any interest in changing on the residential landscape waste?
I do.
As far as burning, I don't,
Right. So we do offer the pickup,
I-
I won't say it's free because it's included in the garbage rate.
I would agree with
Absolutely.
William, we offer the service, burning of, and we went through this before when Ken was mayor, and there are other issues people shouldn't burn. One, people, a lot of stupidity, they burn on windy days because they don't know any better. But you do have pregnant women, you do have people that are with cancer, you do have people that are asthmatic prone, and those things are all irritants towards those things. So, and given the proximity and closenesses of the houses, being 12 foot at the minimum, the maximum, I think it's not needed to burn. Why should I have to leave my home, and I'm not trying to join the landfill crusade there, but why should I have to leave my home because my neighbor's burning leaves?
I would-
When he could put them in the can, I mean, I know it's easier just to get a big pile and burn them, but the thing of it is that's affecting more than one other person who may or may not exercise common sense when burning, so I would be with William.
I just want to clarify, there are more than 15 feet between people's homes.
Do people
Well,
actually
some
burn
houses
their
are
leaves
just
in
12,
in
6
the
feet.
Oh,
village?
yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
a lot.
Especially along 72.
They burn their grass too.
I didn't know. Never experienced it.
I don't mind having a little fire in the backyard, but burning stuff, I've had a neighbor burning some stuff, and
It's
I had
bad.
ashes float all over my deck. I wasn't too happy with that, so I think we need to do something about it.
I don't know if
So
you,
it wouldn't take away recreational fires.
So you can still do a fire pit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I sent an email to, William and Rick. I had asked Stillman Valley, what do they do? And they do, restricted burning to time frames, and so they do it in the, from,
Even worse.
like, from
Nasty.
Horrible.
It is nasty.
So then
The whole town
everybody's
burns
burning leaves,
Oh.
it's horrible.
They
Yeah, but
sweep
it's
it
burning
up
at the same
next
time.
to the road and
it
they
goes
burn. Yes,
forever.
and it reeks and it just is nasty.
Yeah,
Ugh.
so we don't have roadside burning allowable. It has to be within a containment, within 4, that's
I do
less than
not
4
wanna
feet
do
in
that.
diameter.
That happens along 72 all the time. They
Yeah.
just break them into the ditch and they light them on fire.
Yep. And that is a visibility issue. That's,
That's safety visibility.
So I mean, if it's something we wanna review, we can get the ordinance, take
Sounds
a
like it
read
is.
through it.
yeah,
Yes.
please, let's,
Okay,
Just
so is
review
the
it.
consensus that we would like to remove burning except for recreational and no burning whatsoever on commercial? Is that what we're aiming for here?
Well, we'll have to define that
review it.
leaves and grass aren't recreational.
Oh, no, we'd have to, I'll have to
clearly
do a
states.
revamp, but that, I wanna make sure that I understand the direction in which this board is trying to go before.
Because I mean, we have the service all the way till the weather
And
won't
then
allow it
November, yeah.
to pick up yard waste, so grass
Okay,
clippings and leaves and,
okay, so just recreational fires, no more yard waste, and no commercial whatsoever.
That would be my,
All right.
and no IDOT.
That falls into commercial. I will,
They are the worst.
I will, work
one there
with
might have
the
to
appropriate parties in drafting something who will be heading this.
I would say ordinance enforcement.
Horrible.
It's an ordinance.
Oh my God.
All right, I will,
Yes.
after we get a draft, I'll get it to
They
you.
haul everything in from the entire district.
Everybody okay with that?
Jamie says they gotta close down when they burn. Very passionate about it.
I tried to put a no burn ordinance before the board before, and at that time, it wasn't able to move forward, so. But at this time, it sounds like it has a potential. Because we had we live in a country, we should be able to do whatever we want mentality, but evidently that's changed for the better, so.
I live in that country.
I'm not sure why I have the next one and the streets doesn't, but go ahead.
All three of
No.
those,
E, F, and G.
fall under the, an email that was sent out.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
So are there any questions on them?
no, I remember what it is now.
Everybody is good for them for next week? Sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how those get on the streets.
What's that?
Those don't.
No, no.
They do
I'm-
not.
That's
I
what,
just
I
read
read
the first thing,
them.
a
I read
traffic
them.
study, and I'm like,
all
What?
three of them were.
why is that under me?
Oh.
All right. Clerk?
Any questions on the FOIA report? All right, I think since the last time, it's the same one FOIA, it just hasn't been picked up. They owe me $1.50, and time for my pain in trying to contact them. The discussion on solicitors vest, Dan and I recently had a discussion that our solicitor's ordinance is in violation of many state statutes, so we are currently revamping it. Apparently, we are too defined on what certain things are, and we cannot restrict freedom of speech, and so during that revamp, our solicitor's vest came up. Dan has said we have two options here. We can make the solicitor's vest optional. I guess there's three options. We can make them optional, we can go without them, or we can keep them in our ordinance as is and be the guinea pig for whether or not the Attorney General will allow solicitor's vests.
That would be providing somebody challenged it.
Yes.
Okay.
There is a significant amount of that floating around in the Chicagoland area at this time, so I don't know how far west those challenges will end up coming. So Dan said those are our three choices. I told him that is not a decision I can make. And so I need direction from you guys as to whether or not you want to just chance it. And to be honest, Dan said there's just not anything out there. There's no, you can't find something one way or the other. So we could be perfectly fine leaving it in.
So like, is there like a problem with us expecting them to wear vests or something? Because that doesn't
Dan-
violate their freedom of speech.
Yeah, what does that have to do with freedom of speech?
Dan said that it could border on the restriction of freedom of speech because we are requiring one more step in something for them to do. So we're requiring them to come in and
Aren't.
But we only require them for
municipalities
people trying to
required
sell
Pay
stuff
them too much.
Too many people talking.
or services.
Too many people talking. All three of you talked at once. Try again.
Aren't the majority of communities, don't they all require registration of solicitors?
It's not the registration that is necessarily the issue. It's the requirement that we then, you're required to then wear a vest.
Who do we require to have vests?
Any commercial solicitor, which he said is slightly better than every solicitor. So.
We're only after the people who are trying to sell products or services.
Yes.
Leave it.
And
I say leave it.
What about the badges?
Could we hire a fashion
That's-
designer
that's-
and maybe get an idea?
Same
those are
thing?
fine. No, those are fine.
Then, do badges.
And,
No.
well, so, I'm
not
not
covered.
gonna lie, mine and Jess's conversation was, if you guys say no to the vest, we have no problem making badges 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper that
Exactly.
they have to wear around their chest.
I want big socks.
Flavor Flav?
Flavor
Big
Flav.
socks.
Yeah. So, I did try to explain to Dan that the vests are not only a safety for the person soliciting, it's also a safety for the resident, because they can see
So-
50 feet away that it's okay.
If you get a complaint, the label on the back is the badge, the vest is just the holder. It's the
All
cloak,
right.
so.
Call it the
Well
badge.
played.
All right, I will mention that to him, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys were okay with keeping the vest, and
Yes.
potentially
am.
being a guinea pig.
Because we're not requiring non-commercial people to get them. So,
Agreed.
it's not inhibiting anybody's freedom of speech. It's just making people who are trying to sell our resident stuff go through some stuff, so they're just not knocking on
Yeah,
doors.
that's why I said, there's just nothing out there, so Dan said it is a potential liability, and so that's why he wanted to make
How
sure.
did it come up in the first place?
Yeah, I'm curious.
The attorneys who
So,
wrote the ordinance told us to change it?
no. So, remember a few months ago, we talked about the do not knock registry? So he was adding that into our solicitor's ordinance, and then, I asked him why I couldn't do a few of these things, and he's like, well, you can't do those anyway, that's a violation of somebody's freedom of speech, and I said, well, my ordinance says I can do it, and he realized that there was a major problem.
But they wrote the original ordinance.
That was
Would've-
probably before it, as I mentioned, these last couple of years, there's been a
Oh,
huge,
I
debate about the restrictions of people's freedom of speech in soliciting, so,
Well, technically, they shouldn't be called solicitors if they're not soliciting. If they're
well,
going door to door knocking, they're just a nuisance.
yes, but it is still
Yeah,
somebody's
nuisance or-
freedom of speech right to talk to you about their gas. And that's why I said it's, like,
That's
those
not,
NICOR
it's a job,
rules
it's
on
not
it.
your freedom of speech.
But you know what I'm saying? It's walking a gray line. So Dan is just moving us into compliance completely.
If not a scam, it's a job.
I would say leave it
Right.
until somebody
We got-
challenges us, and to
we took
the
off.
point where we gotta spend any money to defend ourselves, then we just change the process.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I still love all the ones that are out there, and you ask them where their badge and their ID, well, my boss has them. Well, I'm telling you, he doesn't. 'Cause
No, we've been
I know
down
the people
this-
that write this stuff.
We've been down this road, no, he doesn't.
Yeah. All right, that was all I had.
They are kind of fun to confront, though.
Yeah, I used to enjoy that.
All right. Brenda's not here, so we can skip that section completely. Anybody have anything on unfinished business?
No.
Anybody have anything else for the betterment of this board?
What
Or
about
this village?
soliciting signs that I asked for?
What?
What?
A couple months ago, I asked about soliciting signs put up.
As a note,
Oh, on the outside of Village?
Yeah.
Did we ever
I
move
do
with that?
remember that.
I do remember that as well.
Yeah.
Fergie and I will touch base. I have a feeling that may have gotten lost in our
Overlooked.
transition where Fergie and I have been covering parks too. So, we'll talk about that.
All right. Give us some examples. We can look at them.
motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
John makes a motion to adjourn. Dina seconds. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 8:54.